Hello and welcome back to VS Radio. This video is a tutorial teaching you how to set up all equipment in the VS Radio studio. So this video is going to be split into two sections. The first section is the basic setup, which is how to get your equipment working as it should without crashing or having weird issues. The second section is the advanced setup, where we're going to dive very deep into how all equipment work and make the best use of them, and become a nerd, just like me. So the first and the most simple thing we're going to talk about is the microphone. Setting up a single microphone is extremely easy. You will only need a microphone, a USB-C cable, a laptop, and a pair of headphones. You need headphones because if you're using a speaker, the sound from a speaker can just bleed into the microphone and this will be unrecoverable. And I strongly suggest using a microphone arm and stop using those tripods that break all the time. They are short and they absorb tons of noise. Now I have a table in front of me with a tripod on it, and as you can hear, it sounds terrific. I had to lean down this low to get something normal sounding. How to solve this problem? Use a mic arm. Now the audio is sounding pristine again. Problem solved. It's not rocket science. I just can't understand why people refuse to use it. By the way, you should be as close as I am when you're recording, which is exactly one thumb away from the microphone. If you want to know why, you can go watch another section and I'll explain everything to you. Another thing is to make sure you choose the correct cable. The microphone is USB-C, so one of the sides has to be USB-C, and the other side of the cable depends on what kind of port your laptop has. For example, my laptop does not have any USB-A ports, so I'll need to use a USB-C to USB-C cable. You can also use a dongle if you don't have the designated cable that you need. The next step is to connect everything, and also make sure that your mic is turned on. The blue light is only a power signal. It will still be lighting up when the mic is off, so make sure you toggle the switch to the top or the mic will not record anything. On your laptop, you'll have to adjust the input settings in the system. For MacBooks, you'll have to go into system settings or system preferences if you're in an older version, and then go into sound. Make sure the input section is selected as ATR 2100X USB microphone. The same name will also show up in the output section. This is for the headphone jack on the microphone. You can use that if you want, but I recommend you plug your headphone into your laptop because the headphone jack on the microphone does not sound that nice. For Windows laptops, it's the same. You'll need to go into settings, go into sounds, and then scroll down until you see input device and change that to ATR 2100X USB microphone. For other operating systems like Linux or Chromebook, I don't know, but you can go into Google and type in the operating system you're using plus microphone settings after that. You'll find lots of useful tutorials from different people or even from the company itself. This also works if you're setting up something else and met problems with it. Google solves all the problems. Or maybe ChatGPT if you prefer that. Anyways, after you nailed all the settings, the next step is to actually step into recording. So you'll need a recording software or a digital audio workstation like Audacity, Ableton Live, Cubase, Logic Pro, etc. For this video, I use Audacity to demonstrate the process. The first thing you'll do on Audacity is right-click and then add a mono track. Also, go into audio setup and check that the recording device is set to ATR 2100X USB microphone. You can also click on the microphone icon and click Start Monitoring. Then you will be able to hear yourself when you're recording. The last step you'll have to do is to press record and enjoy your pristine audio. But the story doesn't end here. There's one more important thing after recording, which is packing and cleaning up. I noticed a lot of you guys aren't packing the microphone properly, and I saw things like this, and this. The cases are bent, the pop filters are gone, the tripods are breaking because all the things are squashed together in the same box. Packing up your microphone isn't that hard. You only need to fold the tripod, the cables, and tie them with magic tape or put them in a bag. Then just arrange all the stuff in the following order, and your mic is packaged. Packing microphone is not difficult at all, so make sure you pack your mic after you finish this video and stop breaking things. The next thing we're going to talk about is the RODECaster. So this thing serves as an audio interface and the job of it is simple. Because our computer doesn't understand analog signal from the microphone, so we'll need an interface to transcribe the analog signal from XLR into digital signal and send it to our computer via USB. But don't our microphones have a USB output? Why are we still using interfaces? Well, actually, most of the microphones on the planet are XLR only. Our microphones are special because they are made for beginners. So what they did is they put the tiny audio interface into the Mac and do both the recording and transcribing in the mic itself. But we'll have to sacrifice a lot for putting everything into a small and compact form factor like this. Everyone knows that big speakers sound better than small speakers. The same logic also works on interfaces. Large interfaces sound better than small interfaces. So if you want to get the best sound from your microphone and reach the top of its limits, use an audio interface. But the sound is not the only reason. Another useful scenario for interfaces is to record multiple microphones at the same time. Because when you plug multiple USB microphones into your laptop won't read any of them and decides to crash instead. So for podcasts or videos that require multiple microphones, we'll have to use an audio interface. And now I'm going to teach you how to use the RODECaster properly. So the first thing is to make sure that the power is plugged in. Yes, don't laugh. Things happens. Our RODECaster requires an external power to work properly, so make sure to check that your power is plugged in and screwed in, so that someone will kick the cable in the middle of a fantastic show and destroys everything. The next step is to plug your microphones. The hollow side with pins on it, or the female side, goes into the interface, and the side with the clip on it, or the male side, goes into the microphone. Make sure to push the screen on the RODECaster and the cable before you're plugging anything. Also, make sure again that your mic is turned on. The blue light won't show up because the XLR doesn't provide enough power, but it will work just as fine. The headphones can also go into jacks next to the XLR inputs. You'll need an adapter from 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeters if there isn't one plugged in already. One simple rule to follow is to make sure that the mic and the headphone of the same person is plugged into the same number. This will make your audio engineer's life a lot easier when they want to adjust the volume. Another way to make our lives easier is to align the number of the microphones and the headphones according to the position in the camera from left to right. After you plug in the microphones and the headphones, prepare a USB cable and connect the RODECaster to your computer. On your computer, make sure to choose the correct input in your settings. The name is RODECaster Pro Stereo. RODECaster Pro Multitrack is for the nerd section. If you're not a nerd like me, you'll have to know what it's about. You can also change the output to the RODECaster if you want to use the headphone jack on the mixer, and the rest of the recording settings are the same as recording a single microphone. Another irreplaceable part of making videos is the visual, so I'm going to teach you how to record a video on the camera. So the first thing you need to do is to turn the power on and switch the mode to video mode. If you're recording in standalone mode, you can adjust the exposure with a larger knob and directly start record. If you're outputting your image to ATEM Mini, you'll need to go to the menu, go to page 4 on the red icon and change the HDMI output to 1080p clean. Using 4K is meaningless because ATEM Mini doesn't support 4K at all. The next step is to set up ATEM Mini, and we'll cover that later in the video. But having a nice camera is not enough. You'll also need to have proper lighting or else a video will look like this, which is nothing at all. For lighting, you'll need studio light, or else if you simply use the light on the ceiling, it's also going to look very horrible. It's very easy to set up a light. You'll need a bulb, a tripod, and a softbox. The first thing you'll need to do is to lock the bulb onto a tripod and adjust the height with the knob on it. Next step is to install a softbox. There are 4 feet on the foil, and you'll need to put each of them into one of the corners at the back of the bulb. Then you can stick the white sheet to the edge of the foil. The final step is to plug in the power of the bulb and adjust the brightness by constantly flicking the switch until you get the brightness you want. I recommend using 2 sets of light and put one of them on the left and one of them on the right. Same reasons will be explained in the next section. The last thing is the basic setup is the ATEM Mini, or people also call it Black Magic, although it's the brand name, not the product name. Anyways, connecting the device is as simple as plug in a microphone. You'll need an ATEM Mini and its power device, your cameras, HDMI cables, and lastly, a USB cable. The first thing is to plug the power in, and the ATEM Mini will automatically turn on by itself. Next step is to connect the camera through HDMI. One of the side of the cable goes to the camera and another side goes to HDMI input with numbers on it. Then just connect your ATEM Mini to your computer via webcam out. Next step is to install a software. You'll need streaming software like OBS or Streamlabs and the driver of the ATEM Mini itself. We're going to talk about drivers first because it's easier. So the first thing you need to do is to go to the Blackmagic website. You can scan this QR code or type blackmagicdesign.com/support in your browser. On the website, select ATEM Live Production Switches and download the latest version of the driver by selecting your operating system. The website will ask you to fill in your personal information, but you can just click download only by the bottom left corner. After the download is finished, just install it and open it and you're good to go. For streaming software, I will use OBS as a demonstration. Simply create a new scene, add a video capture device and name it whatever. Next step is to select Blackmagic Design and Devices, and your video should appear on the screen. If nothing showed up, try replug the ATEM mini, reboot the camera, or use a new HDMI cable. They break all the time. After you know the basics of all the equipment, we'll be diving very deep and try to understand how to make the best use of all the equipment. If you don't want to be nerdy, you can skip this, but I recommend everyone to watch the whole section as this can significantly improve your video quality. The first thing in the nerd section are also microphones, as this is a topic that's very newbie unfriendly and a lot of it needs to be covered in the nerd section. You can record video that looks nice without any knowledge if you have enough talent and luck, but you need to understand all the mechanics working behind to know how to use a microphone properly, even if you're using a $4,000 microphone. The first thing we're going to talk about is the polar pattern of a microphone. A polar pattern is a chart that looks like this, which shows the following of sound recorded when the direction is changing. Although there are many minor types of polar patterns, all of them can fit into three major types, which are cardioid, omnidirectional, and bidirectional, or figure eight. Collier only picks up sound in front of the microphone and rejects most of the sound behind and at the sides of the microphone. Bidirectional will pick up everything in front of and behind the microphone and rejects most of the sound at the sides. Omnidirectional will pick up sound in every direction, including the front, the back, and the sides. It's important to choose the correct power pattern depending on the case scenario. Collier works best when you're not moving, like when you're recording a podcast or a talking video, which is what I'm doing right now. It rejects unwanted noises all around the place and focuses only right at the front. This pattern makes the audio quality significantly better compared to the omnidirectional pattern, which simply records sounds in every direction, even if the sounds are unwanted. So don't move your head or lay back in your next podcast because you're using a cardioid mic and it'll only pick up sound right in front of it. Any kind of moving will result in terrible audio quality. Omnidirectional microphones are for cases where you can't record right into the face, like a vlog or a sports video. It records in every direction, so you don't have to worry about your voice not being captured. But one thing about omnidirectional mics is they tend to sound not that nice. Rode wireless Go's only sound nice because it has powerful AI. Other omnidirectional mics without powerful AI will sound very high. So I recommend don't use any omnidirectional mics if you don't have to. The last pattern is bidirectional, which you seldom see any forms of media. This pattern is somehow abandoned for some reason, and I can only be used in one situation.
Let me see your drawing of me. That's really good.
I did the hearts so that no matter how badly I did the face, it would redeem my...
You don't tell me that. You keep that a secret to yourself.
Oh, okay.
This is Jimmy Fallon Night Show, an American-style late-night talk show. A lot of talk shows embrace bidirectional mics for some reason, which I can't understand at all. Because, like I said, they're abandoned, and they're abandoned for reasons. They suck. Using bidirectional mics is like putting 2 slices of tomato in a hamburger, which is very weird. So don't use bidirectional mics in any circumstances. Just use 2 microphones, unless you become Jimmy Fallon one day. There are also things like lavalier mics that are between cardioid and omnidirectional. They'll pick up normal sounds on every side, but performs best when you point right into it. This somehow seems like a perfect solution for everything, but the truth is that it is only mediocre at everything. There will be more noise than a cardioid mic, and they will never be as versatile as a fully omnidirectional mic. This is the in-between spot if you need decent sound with a little bit of versatility. So it's very important to understand your needs and choose a correct polar pattern accordingly. Another thing important about microphones is the mechanics working behind them. I'm not going to talk about how all the small part works, although I know them, because this is a bit unnecessary if you don't want to be an audio engineer. What I will be talking about is how to choose the correct mic and how to adjust your habit when you're using different kinds of microphones. Depending on the way it captures sounds, microphone can be split into 2 major types, which are condenser microphones and dynamic microphones. Condenser microphones use diaphragms to capture sound, and dynamic microphones use coil. This means that condenser mics are a lot more sensitive and sharp than dynamic mics. They pick up lots of small details that makes your voice sound crisp and clear. But they also pick up noises that are hard to deal with. So dynamic mics are widely used in loud scenarios, like performing on a huge stage with millions of people cheering, or in VIs where AC noise and SLC noise are louder than everything else. And because of how insensitive they are, you have to be extremely close to the microphone. I would say the perfect ratio is about 1 thumb away. Follow this. Another feature of dynamic mics is that they tend to be very bassy because they don't capture as many high frequencies as condenser microphones. The low frequencies popped out and made the overall tone bassy. So the dynamic microphones are perfect for podcasts because they won't pick up tons of noise and they have more bass, which makes everyone have a radio voice. But this doesn't mean that condenser mics are useless. Most condenser mics only exist in professional studios because of how sensitive and fragile they are and how noisy they'll sound in VIS. But there are also condenser mics with a lot smaller diaphragm, which is less sensitive than a large diaphragm microphone, but a lot more sensitive compared to dynamic mics. Some examples are this lavalier mic I'm using and the Rode wireless Ghost. It gives up tiny crisp details but also reduces tons of noise. So it creates a sweet spot where you don't need a professional studio, nor you don't have to point the mic right into your face. A small diaphragm mic can be used when recording video in a normal room, which are rooms that are not treated and are not crazy loud like an echo chamber. Like, don't use them in a swimming pool or on MRT. Use a dynamic mic for those kinds of environments. One thing to notice is that you still need to make them as close as possible. You don't have to point them right into your face, but don't put them 5 feet away. This is very dumb to do. You can have some distance, but don't be too far. The next thing is the RODECasters. We already know how to put many microphones into a single track, and now I'm going to teach you how to record in multi-track. This means that you can separate each microphone into a designated audio file and edit them afterwards. For this, you'll need a professional digital audio workstation. Audacity won't work. You'll need something like Ableton Live, FL Studio, or Cubase. I'll use Logic Pro for this video as this is the only professional DAW I have. The first thing you need to do is to go to the preferences and change the input to RODECaster Pro multi-channel. The next thing you need to do is to add audio tracks. The number of tracks you add will depend on the number of microphones you're using. Then open the mixer or click X on keyboard. Make sure to change your keyboard input to English. Change the input of the first track to input 3 and the second track to input 4 and vice versa. Then you can select every single track by holding Shift and click. Press R on the track to enable record. Press I if you want to monitor yourself. Then press record and enjoy your pristine audio. The next thing is lighting. For lighting, I'm going to teach you how to turn something like this into this. This lesson is about how to create a scene with proper lighting and depth. And what you do is simple. There are literally 2 steps. You move the background further and you move the light closer. Yes, you move the background further and you move the light closer. And you're done. You now look better than ever. Okay, I know it's a bit overwhelming to absorb, so I'm going to explain the reason to you and how you can extend this technique and use it in other ways. So there is one thing you need to know about light, which is the ratio between the distance and luminance won't grow linearly. They will grow exponentially instead. This means if you move the light 3 times closer to an object, the object will be 9 times brighter instead of 3 times. So putting the light at the distance and putting the light right on your face will look vastly different. We can use this knowledge to create depth between the background and the subject. You first move the light closer to the face, and because the luminance will increase exponentially, it's going to look a lot brighter. Next, you move the background further, and because the luminance will drop exponentially, it's going to look a lot darker. This is how you create depth, by ruthlessly increase the contrast. You can turn an image that looks bland to a beautiful, nice, and profound setup. This is why I always tell the studio team to put the background as far as possible. It simply looks 10 times better. So next time when we are recording a video, put the lights closer and put the background further. Remember this. This is very important. The last thing is ATEM Mini. There isn't a lot of advanced stuff to talk about in the ATEM Mini just because of how generic it is. There is no additional feature other than what is covered in the basic session. All those features requires a better model like ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Extreme. This one is literally too basic. TLDR. ATEM Mini is a switcher and what it does is to switch. Now I have finally reached the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching this. I know it's long, I know it's exhausting, but I'm pretty sure that you have become a master in studio equipment. Nice work, good job. Huge thanks to all of the people who didn't skip the next section. You guys have so much better skills compared to those who just ignore the whole part. Also, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and give me an A. This is the end of the video. Thank you everyone.